Welcome to Enjoy Fort Wayne. This episode is brought to you by the Wailanai Farmers Market and highlights the 350 vendors that make up the #1 market in the state of Indiana.
I am David Wall with Yan's Kitchen.
Awesome. So thanks for coming in. What do you think of this cool studio, right? Kind of cool.
This is super awesome, man.
You were saying you didn't know it was here and all that, right?
Nope.
So as always, we are downtown at the library and the beautiful 95.7 WELT studios. It's a radio station as well, which you just learned, right? So you can tune into 95.7 and hear this as well. So let's get started. I kind of want to know your story. Are you from Fort Wayne?
Yes. Yep. I was born and raised here.
Okay.
Yep.
And did you always think when you were like 17, 18, getting ready to graduate high school, did you think, well, I'm going to work for myself and I'm going to create something and I'll just be an entrepreneur, right? Is that kind of the...
Nope.
No, not at all.
Far from it.
Okay, so walk me through that. What happened?
Yeah, so I think maybe I should be speaking for myself, but I felt like I was like a typical high school kid. You know, I had really no aspirations. You know.
Same.
So.
I was looking to be where the fun was. If the fun's over there, then I'm going there. If the fun's over there, well, I guess I'm going to be over there.
Exactly,
I don't know what to tell you.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
Sure.
I think that maybe if that's just back in my day or what, I don't know what kids really do these days. But nope, no aspirations. Didn't think I was going to be an entrepreneur by any means. But after high school, when I graduated, I went straight into the military. So yeah, driving down the street, I saw this big sign. It had like 4 Marines on it, and I said, "That's cool."
Maybe I'll do that.
Went right into the recruiting office, sat down, watched a video. Next thing you know, I'm signed up.
Wow. And your parents were for it?
No, they were not for it.
Okay. So you're like, I'm going to do it.
Big surprise. Yeah. Yeah.
So how long? So you were in the Marines?
Yeah. Went Marines. So trained in San Diego.
What a crappy city to do that in, right?
Yeah.
San Diego.
Yeah,
wow.
I know. You know,
terrible weather.
You know, we're supposed to have fun on the beach and all that stuff. You know, that's how it was sold to me.
Right.
It was a little bit different.
I've seen some of those training videos on YouTube. Did you have to like hold your breath underwater and do all that rigorous stuff?
I think we did that like in like kind of like the YMCA setting. It wasn't in the ocean or anything like that.
Sure.
We had plenty of time on the beach, you know, doing our training and stuff, which is pretty tough. But yeah, you know, I mean, we had about 120 pounds of weight on our back and jumped in from the highest platform into a pool and rifle and everything and trying to swim across the pool.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fun.
Okay, if that's fun, yeah. If you're into that. So how long were you in for?
From 89 to 97. Yeah, that was the contract. So 6 years active reserve and 2 years inactive. Okay,
so now you are in your late 20s when you're out, and now you're ready to be an entrepreneur?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Farthest thing from my mind. I actually went to school, graduated in electronics engineering technology from ITT when it used to be here. And my schools have a habit of not being around after so long. So I went to Paul Harding High School here in Fort Wayne.
Yep.
They're no longer there.
Right.
And then I went to ITT Technical Institute, graduated from there. They're no longer there. So I have no history of education at all.
We just got to take your word for it, huh?
And so basically, long story short, I met up with a buddy. Like I said, I really didn't have any aspirations, and he graduated and got a great job in Connecticut. And basically says, "Hey, I'll talk to my boss, and we'll see if he can get you a job," because you know I was second in my class, so I wasn't that bad of a student. And then I got the job. So I spent several years traveling for a machine tool company, repairing machinery and stuff like that. And then I went into software. I went to school in Connecticut for a little bit for electrical engineering, learned some computer stuff, and then moved into the engineering department, did software from 2000 onwards. And so staying in that whole machine tool building era, doing software and stuff like that. Uh, so my work just kept getting harder and harder and more difficult and more difficult.
Hmm.
Uh, what what really inspired me to become an entrepreneur was my dad, because my dad used to work for Harvester when they were here. He was a foreman at the time, and then they moved out, and he didn't want to move with the company, although he was offered, you know, a position, but that would require the whole family moving, you know.
Hmm.
So he decided to stay, make a living here as a mechanic, and eventually he had his own repair shop. And so he retired from that, and now he's in Florida. So I kind of got that inspiration from my dad. So my dad could do it, I could do it. So I, you know, grew up around cars and so on and so forth, a lot of technical things. And but it wasn't until 2010 where a lot of things happened in my personal life, and I ended up resigning from the second company that I worked for, and that was in 2010. So, you know, it was a health thing. I resigned so that I could take care of my mental and physical wellness, basically.
In 2010, that wasn't a thing. In 2010, I don't think people were doing that, saying things like their mental health. They do it now in 2023, but that's interesting that you did that in 2010, because I think it took more guts to do that in 2010 than it did now. Don't you think?
Especially for me, I think, in my generation and what I've gone through, it's like, you know, hey, you don't quit.
Well, yeah, you're a Marine.
Yeah, Marines don't quit, you know. So the whole mentality of just quitting something just doesn't compute, you know.
Right. It's not in your frame of mind, I wouldn't think.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, but there is a point where it's like you can feel it. You can feel some physical, like, tightening in the chest, and, you know, lethargy. You know, you're kind of lethargic and just tired all the time, and this and that. And I think there's a lot of things. I think what it was back then, I was clinically depressed but didn't know it. I think in a big way.
Along with millions of people who go undiagnosed.
Yeah, and I think that's a serious issue. Nobody knows that.
Right.
I think, like you said, more people are aware now about that.
Sure. We've come a long way in 13 years, right?
Right.
But back then, I feel like we were 30 years behind, and it was only 13 years ago. You know what I mean? It's just the jump we've made, which is good, but I just find it interesting that you said that, and it wasn't like it was last year. It was 2010.
Right.
So, I mean, that's pretty cool to hear that you were able to. It takes guts to admit that, you know? So, okay, so it's 2010. You're now kind of trying to take care of you, and you did have some entrepreneurship in your family. Is that with your dad? Is that kind of where your mind went then?
Right. So, I guess I kind of had this entrepreneur spirit long ago. I want to say when I was 20 years old, I actually was installing car stereos.
Oh.
And I used some of my dad's space in his shop to do that. And I think it lasted about 3 months. And then I left with like $5 in my pocket. And I think I learned at that point that if you put out some business cards out there and you said, you know, you did a service or whatever it was, that there's actually people that would come to you and pay for the service.
Right.
So
wow, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Who are these people?
At 20,
you know?
like, that's kind of cool.
But it was just a short-lived thing. Wasn't serious about it. Wasn't even thinking of it really as a business. We just kind of knew to be doing it.
Sure. That's at the back of your mind though now, fast forward to 2020,
Right.
2010, right?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
okay.
So while I was traveling around in 2009, so I did a lot of travel. I mean, that's all I ever did was travel, travel here and there. And uh, so my wife uh, needed something to do, you know, and our situation was a little bit different. She had come from China and getting still acclimated to the American way and this, that, and the other. And I said, you know, she needs to be out talking to people and getting immersed into the American culture, right? So we decided to go to the Glenbrook Mall, and she had a small cart that she ran since 2009. I say July of 2009, and oh gosh, for quite a while. But it was in 2010 when I quit that I tried to look for a job, and I had kind of a unique skill set that really didn't fit a lot of things in the area, so it was hard for me to find a job. And I said, well, I need to work, and ended up working with her at the mall. And it's very, very interesting because it's all about uh, just doing it, just going out there and doing it, which I'm a doer, right? And uh, then there's consequences of doing. so so I work with her, and we had this great idea about, hey, let's get another cart. So we have two carts. One that sells flip flops and hats, which was doing okay. You know, it was a summer thing, but it was approaching winter, and got some idea from another guy. Hey, why don't you sell natural soap? And I'm like, sure, we'll do it. You know, I mean, we can sell anything, right? Anybody will buy. And I spent 10 grand about on the design of the cart, had someplace in town build something really nice and beautiful and fancy, and we had like the best looking cart that you could see in the mall there, and everybody just raved about it. But we didn't make any money on it. We were like close to $10,000 in the hole, you know, with
I'm
the
trying to
mall.
think. I'm trying to think if I'm sure obviously I have been to the Glenbrook Mall, surely. And I'm just trying to think if I can recall seeing one of the nicest, if it was one of the nicest one. I just don't remember.
You may have, because shortly after that, we things started to change for us, and my wife, she of course was reaching out, meeting a lot of people, getting to know other entrepreneurs there and business
Hmm.
people, and she'd
Sure.
taken over a purse cart and ran that for about 4 years, and that was like the best thing in that whole mall. For some reason, people loved handbags and purses. I didn't get that, you know.
Yeah, I wouldn't either,
You know,
I
I'm a
suppose. But
guide, and I didn't
yeah.
get that, but it was the best-selling cart, and it actually pulled us out of our situation. We were able to pay off our debt from the soap cart, um, and then start to uh, put money into other carts. So we're selling like hip hop jewelry, nail art, hats, uh, handbags. So we had
Wow.
4 carts at one time, up until about 2014. So at that point, I'm thinking, I like this entrepreneur stuff, you know?
Pretty
It's a
cool.
lot of hard work, but, you know, given our situation and I'm not making any money and no income, we were able to really scrape by and put food on the table. And that's really kind of how it got started. It was really from a situation where I had resigned from my job for health reasons, you know. And by that way, what I mean by that is I spent months in Canada working on, I had an aerospace company up there on a couple of machines for milling landing gears, and it was a long, arduous project. Middle of winter, um, always gloomy and cold, and but what really did it is that same year, my mom was uh, in hospital. There was a heart surgery that had gone wrong.
Hmm.
She passed away at the end of 2009. My wife at that point had a brand new baby. Nobody was there to take care of her because my parents are having all kinds of, health issues. And here I am stuck in Canada for months. And so there's a lot of things, like I said, in my
Yeah.
personal life that just kind of came crashing down. But yeah, you know, um, so this entrepreneur thing, this new thing, I started to like. It was a breath of fresh air. It was like something different, away from what I was doing before, and it felt good. I felt good about
That's very important for your mental health for sure.
it.
It's
Exactly.
harder work in some areas, but then also more rewarding when you say in some other areas, which brings me to a question that I was thinking about then, like what would you say to someone who is thinking about becoming an entrepreneur? They may have this idea that they say, "Hey, I've learned a way to build this thing and I can do it, I can make multiple pretty easily and in order to sell them, is my thought." Okay, if someone comes to you and says that, what would be your advice to them?
Well, that's what I would say is to that person is there who wants to buy it?
Find your audience, right?
Yeah, who's gonna buy it? You may like it because you think it's the coolest thing in the world, and you put all of your special knowledge into it that you have to building this super awesome thing, and you can multiply it a million times. But who's gonna buy it? And that's the reality of it. Is there a need for it, and will somebody buy it? And the best test is to, and here's what I say. Here's what I say as a test. Take those things. Uh, go rent $25 for a 10 by 10, or a kiosk at the mall, whatever, and then go sit it on the cart or the table or whatever, and just stand there and watch people go by. And if they come over and they like it and buy it, then you got something.
Test it out. Yeah. No, that makes sense. So then that brings me to a question about fast forwarding to today. In dealing with food, it is very easy for someone to be able to say, "Yeah, I like that," because you literally see them within 5 seconds of them purchasing it. They can bite the food and
Right.
say, "Oh my gosh, this is good," right? I mean,
Right.
so
You'll get immediate feedback,
yeah, you really do. Like, oh well, it's not for me.
one way or the
Oh,
other.
okay, yeah, yeah, and so is that? I mean, to your point, then, how did you get into the food? Fast forwarded to today.
So, um, I think this is I think I want to say a common maybe mistake for somebody wanting to become an entrepreneur is that usually it's all about everybody's about themselves. You know, it's about me, 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 and oh, I had this great idea, and I think this is going to be a great business, and I think that's where it fails. That's the beginning of where things start to fail, because it's really about this time. Reflecting back, I had all of 2022 to reflect back on past businesses. So the retail part was just one phase of things, and we actually started an industrial services business and ran that for 10 years. Closed it down at the end of 2020, and then closed another one at the end of 2021. So um, we quickly learned a lot, um, and it takes several years because I'm stubborn, basically, and not that smart or educated. And if anybody's listening to this, I'd say the first thing it starts to get an education, for sure. Learn about accounting and finance and marketing and all those things if you're going to be an entrepreneur. But what I think I really want to say is do your research. Do research. Learn how to use Google. Try to take any biases out that you have. Identify your biases so that you can make the most objective decision and do objective research as possible. And because there's a million things out there that you could do as an entrepreneur and be successful. But I think a lot of people, start with themselves and say, I think I got this great idea, and then try to sell that, which is hard.
Yeah. It sometimes you can kind of go about it backwards. It's always good to have some form of mentor, I think, or someone that's at least to the spot that you want to be. I've learned that. Like, if you want to get to point B, find someone who's really close to there or there, and just ask them, like, well, what did you do when you know? And I think that is the doing the research. That's a lot of what you're saying. I think it makes sense, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean it makes sense if you allow it to make sense. Um, but some people are. I was stubborn, really super stubborn, you
sure,
know.
sure.
And I hear I can think back to when a lot of people would tell me, well, did you write a business plan, or did you do
Right, right.
research on this, or I don't think that you know you're gonna that's gonna happen, or whatever it is, whatever the topic would be. And I just would really never listen. I would hear it, but I wouldn't really truly listen and understand what somebody's trying to tell me. And that would be the failure in my part, as an entrepreneur. But now I listen, and I try to be a better person about it, better business person. I'm still working that out.
Oh yeah, and never you. It's something we always chase. Like, there's never a point where, oh, we got it and now it's done. Now we're
Yeah.
done. We're perfectly well rounded and it's done. I mean,
Right.
which is also part of the fun. So no, I get that. Let's talk a little bit about the farmers market where most people can find you now. Um, when did you first get into the market? How did you hear about it? Walk me through that story.
So, um, as I mentioned, we'd done our research, and given the past 3 years with the pandemic, and analyzing where are people still putting their money, and especially in a town like Fort Wayne. If I had to rate Fort Wayne across the board with other um, cities, it's it's pretty progressive, uh, growing city, has a lot of potential, but I think it's on a cusp of um, good things, but it's not quite there yet. There's still a lot of growing it has to do, I think, and but I think people aren't ready to come in and put a huge investment. Like, for instance, if they had a franchise, and they are successful in a lot of bigger cities, Chicago, New York, or L.A., whatever. There's a certain demographic, and I think Fort Wayne is close to that, but not quite there. Um, so it just really have to take that in consideration, as far as um, the research. So we understand that part, and then leading up to, okay, what do the Fort Wayne people like? Is what it's about. It's not about what I like. It's about what do the Fort Wayne people like. I've been here all my life, but do I really understand what the Fort Wayne people like? Well, I need to ask, or observe or something. So we um, once we identified what is we'd like to do and try, then we searched for markets, and that's where we came across the YLNI market. And to be honest with you, I had no idea about YLNI. I think I've heard of the Fort Wayne Farmers Market, but
Sure.
I wasn't sure. We're coming at this brand new, and I think what really caught my attention is that I'm a doer, and I thrive on communication, and I can tell right away if there's you know someone I'm talking to, kind of what their situation is within uh, a place or whatever. And Ashley, when I talked to Ashley, she was highly responsive, and I really have to hand it to her that I think. And now I understand, once I heard that she's been with YLNI for 14 years. I
That
see
makes sense.
why
Well,
she
right.
is as organized as she is, and um, I think she just has a good handle on things. She's highly responsive, and I know what it's like to be highly responsive and constantly communicating with. Um, oh, sorry about that. I thought I shut this thing off. I guess not.
You're not under a rock.
Oh my gosh. So I truly appreciate what she does in her efforts, but I feel like her efforts are the way it is because she's been doing it for 14 years, and
Sure.
it's just natural for her to go about and do this.
Not her first rodeo.
Great habits, great habits.
Sure.
So I enjoy that, and um, so that got me hooked right away, and I said, okay, well, it just feels right, anymore. I kind of go by a gut feeling. I don't try to analyze things so much anymore. It's more like how does my gut feel about it? It felt pretty good.
Mental health.
So we signed up. Yeah, exactly. It's mental health. Do I feel good about it or not?
Right. When you've been around the block a few times, you can kind of go off that a little bit more than some 20-year-old kid.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know, but
Yeah, I've learned that too. I definitely think so.
yeah.
So now at the market, what all do you sell? And give us, and the links will be in the show notes. I'll have them to be able to click on and stuff. But walk us through where people can find you so they know how to, if you're not going to be at the market, let's say, and you announce it, or a Facebook page or something like that. Give us all the details so that we can follow. The link will be in the show notes for you to click on, but tell us a little bit about what you sell.
So we sell. Our focus is on being that we have some Asian influence in the family. So I'm half Filipino. My mom was from the Philippines. My wife is Chinese. We're Americans through and through. So from Midwest. And so we really are focusing more on kind of comfort foods and tasty comfort foods.
Sure.
So we have right now we have a breakfast burrito, and I mean it's just scrambled eggs, ham, not ham, bacon, sausage, potatoes, cheddar cheese. We try to use real as ingredients as possible, real butter. It just tastes better. And I think we try to give the best value we can. So if you buy one of these, they're just massive. They're just packed. So I've heard so many good comments, and that's what I love about doing this. That's why every Saturday I look forward to going, because I can't wait to hear the feedback. And I always have my daughter stand and say, "Okay, you got to listen for the feedback.
Yeah.
What are they saying? And they're saying all kinds of good things. Like it's the bomb. Or I tried to resist, but I couldn't resist anymore.
So let me buy one now.
I'll buy one now.
Yeah.
And just so many great comments, and it's kind of it doesn't matter if it's young, old. We get kids, and I've noticed this several times. The mother will say, "Well, before you can have anything sweet, you need to eat some real food." So, the kid's looking through the window, and the mother's like, "Do you want to look somewhere else?" "No, I want a burrito." And so we've had a lot of older folks too, 60s, 70s coming, and I don't know if I should say it, but he worked for the city of Fort Wayne, and I thought he had a familiar face, and we talked a bit, but he'd bought a burrito for him and his wife. They split it in half. He came back again and bought another because it wasn't enough. Mind you, this guy is pretty tall. He's pretty big, so I can kind of see why. But, the feedback's great. I think we're offering a lot for the value, and I haven't heard anybody, spit it out or.
All right. No, I've had it. And it is wonderful. It is packed with everything. It's the exact ingredients that I would want. It's awesome. So no, I love it.
Thanks.
So I'm excited for the summer market, being outside and having a breakfast burrito. Let me ask you about Fort Wayne. Now, this is a question that we do on this show that I never really say up front, because I don't actually want to have you think about it necessarily for a long period of time. I want it to be more top of mind, what would come to your head right away. And it's always okay if you take a second and kind of like, oh, well, that's okay. So I'm going to lay this question on you. If you were to have a sign that was rented out for you, you didn't have to pay for it or anything, but it was so big, the sign was so big that everyone in the Fort Wayne area could read it when they look up. So it's that big. And the mayor came to you and said, we would like you to put the message on there for our city. No cost to you, none of that. What would you want the city of Fort Wayne, surrounding areas, to look up and see? What would you want it to say?
That's a good question. The first thing that comes to mind is kind of the way we operate. It's like you get the best value, for your dollar. There's everything here. My dad said this a long time ago. He says, you have everything here. Why would you want to go anywhere else? And that just sticks in my head, and it's true. And that's kind of where I say Fort Wayne is like right on that cusp. It has everything. It's like it has everything. And I don't know if I've heard other things where it's kind of a test bed for other products or whatnot, but for the value, the cost of living,
yeah,
you can get a lot. You can really stretch your dollar here.
Sports teams, restaurants, farmers markets, things to do, and the value at the right price.
Right.
I totally agree.
I think you can have a lot of fun. You could there's a lot of things to do, and there's more and more of that happening. I think the city, whoever's running the city, they have their mind set on developing Fort Wayne just to have more stuff and do more things, and at good value. So it's a great place, at least for me, when I quit, to reset and just hit the bottom and not really have to be I don't know, how would you say it? I struggled, but it wasn't bad. Still be able to live and eat and not really lose my home. So I think there's a lot of benefit here in Fort Wayne as a city.
I like what you said. Well, I like what your father said. That makes a really good sign, I think. We have everything here. Why would you want to go anywhere else?
Right.
I think that's the sign. That's pretty solid. So I maybe I should be talking to him. I like what he said. That is really perfect. And I think it would invoke a bit of a chuckle and a bit of a like, well, yeah, you have a point.
Right.
Like a little bit of like, you would kind of laugh, but you would kind of be like, well, it's not
That's
wrong.
a good point.
Yeah, like, well, now that you mentioned that sign, man, I guess that makes sense.
Right.
I do love that. Well, thanks for being here and telling us a little bit about your story. And we will see you. I will see you with a mouthful of egg and potato and
No, thank you for
burrito.
having me here. This is great. I really like what you got going on here.
Pretty cool. Well, thanks, and we will see you next time. This podcast is brought to you by Coraggio Media. The show is edited by me and sponsored by the Wailanai Farmers Market. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram for all the latest updates. We will see you next week, where we will be sure to show you how you can enjoy Fort Wayne.